Hi everyone and welcome. I am Chaitanya. You're watching Chai with Chaitanya. This is the place where I talk about books, movies and fandom. And today I'm here to talk about History Is All You Left Me by Adam Silvera. And I honestly had no plans to read this book until I actually decided to just go ahead and read it very randomly one fine day. But I'm quite glad that I made that decision because this book turned out to be a sheer masterpiece. Going ahead and telling you guys what this book is about. Please note that this is a non-spoiler review and let's get started. In this YA LGBTQIA fiction, we get to meet Griffin, who has recently lost his best friend, who was also his ex-boyfriend, Theo, to a drowning accident. OCD is right now in an even bad state. And then when Jackson, who was Theo's present day boyfriend, when he comes to town for Theo's funeral, that is when Griffin and Jackson meet, and these boys are dealing with their respective losses and griefs because they were both in love with the same person. And naturally Griffin never really liked Jackson because he thought that Jackson was one of the reasons why Theo stopped loving him and reason why they were not really a relationship anymore, or the reason why they couldn't probably see a future with Theo anymore. And right now that he's dead, obviously that all of those feelings have just multiplied and he doesn't want Jackson there. But Jackson is the only person who also understands what Griffin is exactly going through because he has also lost Theo. These two boys sort of connect and start talking, which helps them in their journey towards healing and in acceptance with what has happened. Through this, we as readers constantly shift between the past and the present, and we get to see how in the past Theo and Griffin were as friends and how their relationship developed over the years until the past catches up with the present and we make a full cycle. And talking about the writing in this book, so there is no doubt when it comes to contemporaries, Adam Silvera is an absolute genius, and specifically writing grief, because I think most of Adam's book, except for What If It's Us, deals with a lot of grief, and that is probably because What If It's Us is written in collaboration with Becky Albertalli. I said in the beginning of this video, I was purposefully not trying to pick this book up because I knew what the story was all about, and I was not sure if I want to get into this because I am a person who cries very easily on emotional stuff. So I knew that this was going to be a tough thing to get into, which is why I did not own a physical copy of this book until I heard half of the book on Scribd on audiobook, and I realized that this is a book that I absolutely want in my collection. And a part of it why I enjoyed this book so much was also to do with the way it's written, and that is not only you follow the main protagonist Griffin here in the past sections in the first person, but in the present day timeline it's written in the second person where the Griffin is constantly talking with Theo. So you get to completely immerse yourself into these characters and into their life because of the way how the writing is, because it's so simple and it's so immersive, if that makes sense. Even though I know this is not a fantasy, but yet it's very very immersive, and you just let yourself be out there and just get into the minds and into the hearts of these characters, and you feel that their grief is your grief. Little about the characters in this book. I personally have no complaints, again, because Adam Silvera is known for writing characters like this, so where they are absolutely heartbreaking and they have the power to move you and touch you beyond what you felt was actually capable of, and that is exactly what happens here. So you have three characters, in fact you have four characters whose life follow because it's very intermingled. That is Griffin, our main protagonist, Theo, who is the person who died, Jackson, who was Theo's present day boyfriend, and Wade, who is Theo and Griffin's third best friend. With Adam Silvera, he understands human psyche in a way where no other author that I can think of really understands grief this well. Not sure if that is because Adam himself faces so much of depression and anxiety and all these mental health issues so deeply, and it's so personal to him, which is why he's able to take all of that and put it into his characters, but also with the fact that he just gets to know that when and where he needs to balance. So despite this book being really short, it's less than 300 pages, but it's very dark, it's very heavy, and it's very heartbreaking and sad. You don't really get the full extent and you don't really feel the full blow of that sadness because of the the way it's written and the way it's structured, and that is to say that every single time in the present day context or even in the past, in this context, whenever you tend to get a little bit too overwhelmed by it, I think the chapter just ends and you cut back to the next timeline. So that sort of helps you, you know, keep graviating your own emotions as well, because every time you're switching you have to actually go back and think as to what happened when the last time you had read that particular timeline. So I think that switch was what made the story very, you know, bearable for me. Otherwise this was anyway a very difficult book to get through. So naturally there are some trigger warnings in this book, and that is to do with loss of a loved one, drowning, panic attack, anxiety attack, depression, OCD, mental health conditions, and even running away, among others. So please be sure that you go into this book exactly knowing what you're heading in. I personally enjoyed the way this story was told, and also as much as the fact that the characters were very real and very believable, even though we did not really get to follow other characters in first person and we did not really have their point of views, I could still see and clearly understand what they were going through and how they were feeling at all times. Even the side and the minor characters like Theo's parents, Griffin's parents, even Jackson's parents felt very believable, very real, and felt as if they were people I would actually know in my real life. I particularly enjoyed how Griffin's and Theo's relationship sort of evolved over the years. You get to see how they were as friends, how close they were, and how they realized that they are actually in love with one another, and how Griffin comes out and then Theo comes out to him, and they sort of start with their relationship, how they navigate their relationship, and then how they choose to break up and then move on, and yet they keep in touch, they keep their friendship alive. There's also this third best friend who is a part of their group, who's called Wade. He also comes in and he also has a very important aspect to play in this book, in Theo's life as well as in Griffin's life. So overall I really enjoyed this book. There's no way that I would have given this any way less than a 5 stars, and this has become one of my top favorite LGBTQIA reads. That's more or less it for this one, and I hope that you guys pick this book up, and if you have already read it then do let me know what your thoughts were. For that's it, and I will be seeing you super soon in another video. Until then, bye.